What do you call a cow that just calved?
I don't know.
Decaffeinated?
Hey everybody, it's Lance and Dusty. We're back again in the office, and we're going to do something a little different today. This is our very first episode of Table Talk. This is a series that we're bringing to you guys through the wonderful interwebs. In light of current events, I know a lot of travel has been shut down, plans have been changed. So we decided that we would put out something that would be more entertaining, more informational, a lighthearted way to learn, to come together and get our minds off of the things going on around us that are so negative. Really, we want to keep this fun. These are mostly thoughts that we have from being on the road, things that we see, things we think about, but rarely truly get to discuss them with breeders, producers, whatever the case may be. So stay with us, and hopefully you'll enjoy it, hopefully you'll learn from it, and have a good time at it.
I think that's the best way to put it, Dusty. We're going to try to keep everybody educated, but have a little bit of fun with it. Just random thoughts, things that I think about, things that you think about, stuff that doesn't always necessarily come up in everyday conversation. Some historical things that are kind of interesting and pertain to today. I think that's where we're going to start today, really, is talking about selection of animals. It's something you and I both push when we talk to producers, is how to select animals. And I think if we need to start back at the beginning, when animals were domesticated. And for cattle, that's about 8,000 years ago. So it's been a while since we've domesticated cattle. And when we first domesticated cattle, it was for different purposes. We selected for draft animals that could do work, pull a plow, things like that. The selection of the animals has changed over time as their purpose has changed. But there's still selection pressure, and there's been selection pressure ever since animals were first domesticated.
It's something that it's been such a long time, 8,000 years. Think about what's happened in the beef industry just in the last 70. We've changed a lot as an industry. Our animals have changed, our breeds have changed, but some things are just as important today as they were then. The way that we look at structure and the way that animals should be designed, those are things that they've adjusted. But there are a lot of the very same factors and traits that we need to look for that they were back then.
Yeah, and exactly. And, now and then we've selected on phenotype. Phenotype is anything that you can see or measure, whether that is truly just looking at the animal and evaluating angles and structure, the carcass data. If we do an ultrasound and get the carcass data, that is a phenotypic measure. Weaning weights are a phenotypic measure. The other part of that is genotype. And we've had to combine those two. And the biggest thing in my field in animal breeding is phenotype equals genotype plus environment. So there's a few things that play in there, and we've got to have selection and ways to select. And those ways are constantly evolving and have been since domestication.
I feel that a lot of times we discredit what phenotype is. It must be something that we can see, the way the animal's made. We tend to disregard the measurement side. And that's something that I think we need to bring back into. The measurement is the phenotype. That's the way those genes are expressed. What do you see with that?
I agree, and I think we're getting better and better at incorporating more and more traits, more and more phenotypic traits with some sort of weight and some sort of measurement, and then utilizing that. EPDs are the best way to make improvement that we have right now. Genomically enhanced EPDs really help expedite that as well. And those are things that take into account both phenotype, both genotype and environment to come up with the phenotype and what we should expect. They've been around for years. EPDs were developed a long time ago using Henderson's mixed model equations because he saw a need for it. An animal breeder saw a need for being able to compare across different herds and different environments.
Something else that I really believe gets thrown really out the window when we look and start comparing animals, especially in EPDs, is yes, we look at the phenotype, we have things that we like to see with the individual performance, but all too often people want to compare my herd to your herd through the individual data instead of the EPD. And I believe that it's a lot of, whenever we're doing that, we're moving the E in that equation, the environment. What you have is going to be different from what I have as far as feed resources, the way we manage, where in the world we're located. If I'm in southern Louisiana and you're in West Texas, that's a heck of a lot of difference in between there.
My favorite thing to talk about and think about is because on a human level, a lot of people think of themselves, and you can really picture yourself. Most of us here in America, and I say most of us, have had adequate resources that we need to reach our genetic potential. I may have exceeded my genetic potential when I got to college, but I had all the resources I need. If I had been in a third world country, I would have the exact same genotype, but my phenotype would be different. I probably wouldn't be as tall, wouldn't have the muscle definition or the ability to put on muscle that I had here because of the different environment. And that goes back to exactly what you were saying between Louisiana and West Texas. There's a huge difference there in terms of the nutrients that those animals can get. And that's why we use EPDs, is because we can take out as much of that environment as possible.
Absolutely. That really acted more as a segue than I thought it would. I really believe that, as seed stock producers, we should do what we can to unlock that genetic potential. That's what we're purchasing when we're getting those top herd sires, those donor dams. We're looking for animals that have more genetic potential, but are we really focusing on the genetics that fit for our environment? What's optimal there? What should we be doing?
And that's the big thing, is there is an optimum, and maximum isn't always the optimal in every situation. From my perspective, I think you need some of those big outliers, some of those, if we're talking in terms of carcass, we need some of those big ribeye, high IMF cattle that can go on top of an animal that doesn't have that ribeye or that IMF and help move the progeny forward to come. But I think if we focus on staying at an optimum, that's the best. There's been research that shows that. And every environment has a different optimum. If I've got limited grass resources, my optimum cow size is going to be much smaller than if I am on the coast and I can have more grass and more feed stuff available to me without pumping in extra money. So there's optimums, and we can achieve those by selecting for our environment as well as selecting on EPDs. For me personally, if I select bulls for what I want to use, because of where I grew up, milk is a big energy. It takes a lot of energy to produce milk. So the milk EPD that I would like to select for is probably a little lower than somebody that's a little bit further east and has the ability to put that extra energy in the cow.
And, speaking about kind of the areas that we grew up around, they're just north of the coastal bend. I mean, we've got great Bermuda grass. There's plenty of nutrition in it. We can take a much larger cow that milks heavier, that, we can really work the land a little harder as far as carrying capacity. We can put more into them. We can take a little more than we can out west, but it's just a different part of the world, and we should be getting the animals that fit our environment, because we cannot, it's been tried, and it's so much more expensive to change the environment to fit the animal. And in the end, when those genetics go out into commercial herds that do not have the resources that we necessarily put into it, those animals don't do as well there. And we're not doing our customers justice or our cattle or genetics justice by doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
And guys, this has just been a short little episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have some more. Stay tuned.